Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take that stack of articles, research notes you've gathered, and really boil it down.
Yeah, we pull out the most important bits, the surprising stuff.
Think of it as your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed, without drowning in all the data.
And today, wow, we've got quite a collection.
It really is diverse.
Yeah.
Sources touching on economic shifts, real estate trends, sure, but also some deeply personal stories.
And even hidden messages in art, which I found fascinating.
It's a real mix. And when we start to unpack it, you see these unexpected connections about, well, everything around us.
It's amazing, isn't it, how topics that seem worlds apart actually tap into the same, societal dynamics, human experience.
Right.
So our mission really is to help you navigate all this, spot the patterns, understand not just what's happening.
But why it matters. To you.
Exactly.
Okay, let's dive in then. We've got sources from major news outlets, specialized industry reports. It gives us a pretty granular look at some big ideas.
A really good cross-section.
So where do we start? What's the first thread we're pulling on?
Well, let's start with the economy, the shifting ground there.
Okay, yeah, the signals definitely feel mixed right now. U.S. equities, for instance, took a bit of a dive recently.
They did. The S&P 500 dropped, 3.3%?
And the NASDAQ was down even more, 5.6%. Ouch.
Yeah, and this really connects directly to what the Federal Reserve is doing.
Tell.
Right. Fed Chair Jerome Powell, he's been very upfront saying, look, interest rates are going higher. We need to tackle inflation.
And they're reaching levels we haven't seen since, 2008?
Precisely. Targeting that 3.75 to 4% range. Highest since '08.
But then you look at the labor market and it's confusing.
It is, because non-farm payrolls, they actually increased in October by 261,000.
Which sounds good.
It does, but at the same time, unemployment ticked up just a bit to 3.7%.
So, okay, we've got rates going up, stocks going down, but jobs still being added, yet unemployment also nudging up. What's the takeaway?
Yeah, what does this really mean for you? For your investments, your daily life?
What should people be thinking about?
I think the core thing here is this tug of war, The Fed is actively, deliberately trying to cool the economy down, hit the brakes on inflation.
Right.
But the job market is showing this surprising resilience. It's not collapsing.
So, for you listening, what's the practical implication?
Well, it likely means you should anticipate higher borrowing costs sticking around for longer, mortgages, credit cards, loans.
Okay.
But it also suggests that a huge, full-blown recession isn't necessarily guaranteed.
Not a foregone conclusion.
Exactly. So it makes careful financial planning, being adaptable, really crucial right now, navigating these cross currents.
Okay, that makes sense. And these big economic shifts, they definitely hit home in the housing market.
Oh, absolutely.
Our sources are using phrases like correction, not a crash.
Right. And also, buyer's market has arrived. You hear that a lot.
So what are the forecasts saying? Is it dropping? Stabilizing?
Well, that's just it. There are different views. Some analysts do predict price declines.
Wait.
Others see maybe slow growth, or they're even talking about a potentially brighter home buying season coming up.
Brighter. How so?
The thinking is that mortgage rates might start to fall back into a range that feels, more familiar, less shocking than recent peaks.
And amidst all this change, the sources highlighted some really interesting strategies.
Yeah, definitely. Like house hacking.
Explain that one a bit.
Sure. It's often mentioned as one of the maybe easiest ways for rookies, for beginners, to get into real estate investing.
Even in pricey areas.
Yeah, that's the key. It can make even high-cost areas more accessible. The basic idea is you buy a property with multiple units, like a duplex or triplex.
Yep.
You live in one unit yourself.
And rent out the others.
Exactly. The rent from the other units helps cover your mortgage, sometimes all of it.
So your tenants are essentially subsidizing your housing costs. Clever.
It can be very effective.
What other strategies stood out?
Well, for multifamily properties generally, beyond just house hacking, there's this feeling that the market might be bottoming out.
Meaning it's a good time to buy?
Or at least that a buying window is opening up or widening for investors looking at those types of properties.
Okay. And what about Airbnbs? Short-term rentals. That seems to be a hot topic.
Definitely a debate there. You see headlines like, calm down, short-term rentals are doing fine.
Right.
But then you also see articles listing, 5 reasons why you should not invest in Airbnb properties.
So conflicting signals.
Very much so. But even with the debate, they're still noted for potentially maximizing cash flow. There's mention of the new Airbnb strategy, focusing more on optimized management, finding niche markets, that kind of thing, not just putting any property up.
Gotcha. And then there was talk about financing. Creative ways.
Yeah, creative financing, things like little to no money down methods. And the BRRR formula gets mentioned quite a bit.
BRRR. What's that stand for?
It's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat.
Okay, walk me through that. Buy, rehab, rent. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Refinance, repeat.
So the refinance part is key. After you've rehabbed the property and rented it out, increasing its value, you refinance the mortgage based on that new higher value.
Ah, okay.
This often allows you to pull most or even all of your initial investment capital back out, tax-free because it's loan proceeds.
And then you use that money to...
Repeat. Buy the next property. That's how investors can scale their portfolio relatively quickly, sometimes without leaving much of their own cash tied up long term.
That sounds powerful. Almost too easy. Are there catches?
Well, the sources do stress it requires work. You need good due diligence, especially on estimating rehab costs accurately.
Right.
And you need a solid understanding of the local rental market and financing options. It's not magic, but it's a proven strategy if you do it right. Very hands-on.
Makes sense. And taxes play a role too.
Hugely important. Concepts like depreciation, where you deduct a portion of the property's cost over time, that's a major benefit. And 1031 exchanges, that's where you sell an investment property and roll the proceeds into buying another one, deferring capital gains taxes. These are really critical tools for building wealth in real estate.
So lots of potential strategies. But you mentioned broader context. Something about a silent war on landlords. That sounds intense.
It's a strong phrase, yeah. It refers to what some see as increasingly restrictive laws around tenant screening, making it harder for landlords to choose tenants based on certain criteria.
Okay.
And layered on top of that is NIMBYism, not in my backyard.
People opposing new development.
Exactly. And the sources cite this as a long-standing root cause, like decades old, of the affordable housing crisis we face. It restricts supply.
So investors are juggling market shifts, new strategies, but also these regulatory pressures and supply issues.
Definitely. It's a complex landscape.
When you put it all together, the market correction talk, the creative strategies like BRRR and house hacking, these landlord challenges, what should someone thinking about real estate do? What stands out?
What really jumps out, I think, is that this market seems to demand more creativity, more hands-on effort.
Yeah.
The days of just buying anything and watching it appreciate rapidly might be, on pause for a bit.
Right.
But for people willing to put in the work, the house hackers, the BRRR investors, those using smart financing opportunities are still there.
So it favors the active and informed.
Absolutely. It's a market for the active, informed investor, not someone just passively hoping for the best. You need to understand the tools and the broader forces.
Okay. Let's shift gears a bit from housing to the bigger picture. Global tensions, domestic politics.
Yeah, quite a shift.
On the world stage, one source noted eroding support among Republicans in the U.S. for continuing to finance Ukraine's military effort.
And that's triggering reactions internationally. Ukrainian officials, for example, are hitting back, decrying what they call useful idiots in the West who echo certain narratives. Meanwhile, you have Brazil's president-elect saying something quite different, that Zelensky is basically as responsible for the war as Putin is.
Wow. Okay. So very different perspectives.
Very different. And even India's Prime Minister Modi apparently offered to mediate peace talks. But Zelensky reportedly turned that down.
So it just highlights how incredibly complex and fractured the global view is on this conflict. No easy answers.
None at all. No consensus on the path forward.
And how are things playing out here domestically in U.S. politics?
Well, we see echoes of national trends locally. For example, in Michigan, some candidates are clearly borrowing from Trump's Make America Great Again playbook.
Even in a swing state where that might be risky.
Even there, but maybe with some adjustments. Still, you see candidates questioning the 2020 election results, refusing to say if they'll accept their own results.
Wow.
Echoing that they want to silence you kind of sentiment we heard from Trump. It shows how these national political themes really filter down and shape local races.
Interesting. And what about national institutions? The Supreme Court came up.
Yeah, there's been a definite shift there. The sources suggest Chief Justice John Roberts is now seen as, well, less relevant. Less relevant. How so? By whom?
By observers on both the conservative and liberal sides, interestingly. The argument is that the court's internal dynamic has changed. It's become more like a 5-4 Clarence Thomas court.
Meaning Justice Thomas is now the pivotal figure.
Essentially, yes. That his vote, or his judicial philosophy, often dictates the direction of the conservative majority, perhaps more so than Roberts's typically more incremental approach. It sidelines the Chief Justice in some key cases.
That really makes you think about the Chief Justice's role when the court is so sharply divided.
It absolutely does.
Okay, let's move beyond the immediate headlines now, into some more, human stories. Unseen influences, starting with the weight of history.
Yes, this was powerful.
I want to bring in themes from Peniel Joseph's book, The Third Reconstruction. It looks at how America's history, particularly around race and racism, helps explain present-day injustices.
Joseph's central idea is this ongoing clash, a battle between two forces in American history.
On one side, you have what he calls Reconstructionism. That's the push for a multiracial democracy, for equality.
Like during Reconstruction after the Civil War and the Civil Rights Movement.
Exactly. But clashing with it is redemptionism.
Redemptionism.
Yeah, the effort to concentrate power back into the hands of white people, often using violence, and crucially, relying on false narratives, like narratives about black criminality or the whole lost cause myth about the Confederacy.
Romanticizing the South and slavery.
Right, downplaying the reality. And here's where it gets incredibly stark and connects to today. The sources highlighted a specific, really shocking story about appraisal discrimination.
Okay.
It happened in Baltimore. An African-American family had their home appraised.
Right.
The appraisal came in at $472,000. Now, they suspected something was wrong. They had their personal photos up, family pictures, and they met the appraiser themselves. So for the second appraisal, they did something different. They whitewashed their home, took down all the family photos, the African art, and they had a white colleague meet the appraiser instead.
And the value.
$750,000.
Wow. That's nearly $300,000 more.
Just based on removing signs of black identity and having a white person present, it's staggering.
That anecdote, it just makes Joseph's point about history so tangible. It really underlines that idea from the sources that history isn't just past, it's literally present in all that we do.
Absolutely. It shapes everything. Property values, opportunities, how we see each other.
It shows how those old redemptionist narratives like the lost cause or stereotypes aren't just historical artifacts. They have real, devastating financial consequences today.
Precisely. They're embedded in the system.
Okay, from the weight of history shaping our present, let's turn to how art reflects life, and sometimes critiques it quite sharply.
Yes, like the film Brainwashed.
Right, by Nina Menkes. Her argument is pretty provocative, that the very way mainstream movies are shot, the composition, the lighting, framing, camera movement, is inherently sexist.
And that it has real-world effects.
How so?
Well, Menkes talks about her own experience making the film. She called it an act of liberation, saying she didn't even know I was in prison before she started analyzing it this way.
Wow.
She mentions how seeing constant images of, quote, young, beautiful girls in films affected her own thinking growing up, like internalizing the idea, I better get married by the time I'm 25.
Because that's the image of value being presented.
Exactly. It leads to her claim that basically all mainstream cinema is fetish filmmaking, designed around the male gaze, objectifying women.
It's a powerful argument. How seemingly technical choices where you put the camera can shape our perceptions, even our life goals.
It really makes you look at movies differently.
And then, contrasting that analytical trick, we have the story of Pierre Soulages.
Ah, the French painter, famous for his use of black. He just passed away recently.
Yes. And he had this belief. He said, if painting doesn't offer a way to dream and create emotions, then it's not worth it.
A very different take on art's purpose compared to Menkes' critique, perhaps more about internal experience.
He also had that amazing quote about his process. I paint by crisis. If we know exactly what we're going to do before we do it, we are not artists, but artisans.
Ooh, I like that. It really sparks a question, doesn't it, about creativity versus just technical skill. What makes someone an artist versus an artisan? Is it that element of the unknown, of crisis?
That's a great question. And speaking of unconventional paths, there's Elizabeth Libba Cotten.
Incredible story.
Totally self-taught musician, played guitar left-handed but strung for a right-hander, so she played it upside down and backwards, created this unique finger-picking style.
And inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but like long after her death, right? Or
Right.
very late in life.
Well, after her death, yes. Her journey was amazing. Church elders told her to stop playing worldly music. And then motherhood came, and she put the guitar away for like 30 years. Only rediscovered much later when she was working as a housekeeper for the Seeger family, the folk musicians.
Amazing. It shows artistic paths can be so varied, so interrupted.
Absolutely. And one last little art anecdote. This one's kind of funny, but also telling.
Okay.
A reviewer wrote about taking their young daughter to see the Lion King musical. Big family-friendly show.
Sure.
But afterwards, the daughter starts talking about things she learned about drugs, AIDS, and lesbians.
From the Lion King.
No. It turns out the theater was also showing Rent. Maybe previews or posters were up. The parent hadn't realized.
Oh my gosh.
So the kid picked up on themes from a completely different show. It just shows how art, in unexpected ways, can be this powerful teacher, even accidentally.
Wow. Talk about an unplanned lesson.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift to some more everyday realities. Practical stuff. Hidden challenges. Air travel, for example.
Ah, yes. The joys of the airport.
You might notice things are a bit different now at security. If you have TSA pre-check, you can often keep your electronics, your liquids in your bag.
Right. Smoother process.
But for everyone else, they're rolling out these new security machines. Might be a bit different from what you're used to. More scanning.
And speaking of air travel frustrations, something interesting came up about consumer protection.
Oh, yeah.
There's apparently a push for the U.S. to adopt rules more like Europe's. Specifically, this law called EC 261.
What does that do?
It basically requires airlines to compensate passengers for significant delays and cancellations under certain conditions, cash compensation.
Which is very different from here.
Very different. In the U.S., airlines generally aren't legally required to pay you just for a delay.
Yeah.
They might offer vouchers, maybe a hotel if it's overnight, but not cold, hard cash like in the EU.
And has that EU rule actually worked?
Well, the sources suggest it has. They estimate it led to about a 5% improvement in on-time performance for flights within Europe. The threat of having to pay out seems to motivate airlines.
Interesting. Makes you think about what stronger consumer rights could do here.
Definitely.
And sticking with travel, but thinking about the holidays. If you're planning a trip, book soon.
Yeah, prices are apparently climbing daily.
And expect crowds. The projections say airports like Dallas, Fort Worth, Denver, they're going to be the busiest.
Good to know. Any tips for finding deals?
The usual advice. Book early, but also consider flying on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day itself. Often cheaper, apparently.
Ah, if you're willing to travel on the actual holiday.
Right. Now, moving from travel stress to maybe social awkwardness,
Always relevant.
the Dear Amy advice column tackled an interesting one. Those really intrusive questions people sometimes ask, specifically about someone's cause of death.
Oh, yeah. That can be incredibly awkward and painful for grieving people.
Totally. And the advice was pretty clear. Just don't ask. It's usually none of your business.
And if you are asked.
The column suggested having a polite, compassionate, but firm non-answer ready. Something that respects the deceased and your own privacy. It's a good reminder about boundaries.
Definitely. Respecting privacy.
And finally, just a few surprising local details that came up in the sources.
Okay.
Sad news from the San Diego Zoo. Devi, an Asian elephant who'd been there since 1977, passed away. This is 45.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
Yeah. And in the D.C. area, big news. The Washington Commanders NFL team is officially up for sale.
That's huge. And it immediately sparks debate about where a potential new stadium might go, right? Like the old RFK Stadium site.
Exactly. Lots of discussion around that. And also, in the D.C. area, ongoing focus on the Purple Line light rail construction.
Yeah, the transit project.
But specifically, there's a coalition mentioned that's actively working to make sure the development around the new line is equitable, trying to prevent displacement of existing residents and businesses.
That's crucial, making sure infrastructure projects actually benefit the people already there.
Yeah, ensuring it doesn't just push people out.
So quite a mix of local stories, too.
It really is. We've covered such a huge range today.
We really have, from, global economic forces and Fed rates.
To the politics shaping swing states and the Supreme Court.
Then diving deep into how history impacts housing appraisals today.
And how movie camera angles might be sexist.
The journey of musicians like Liva Cotton.
Plus air travel rules, holiday booking tips, even advice column etiquette.
It feels like a true deep dive when you lay it all out.
It really does. And the connections are what stand out, linking interest rates to, say, that shocking appraisal story or connecting artistic choices to personal feelings.
When you zoom out, yeah, it just underscores how all these pieces, even the small ones, they build a richer picture, a more nuanced understanding of the world.
Whether it's the details of a housing market correction
Or the quiet power of a self-taught musician.
or the biases hidden in plain sight in our culture, there's always more there.
Always more to learn, more to connect.
So, wrapping this up, what does it all mean for you listening?
Well, I think it means staying curious is key.
Yeah. Questioning assumptions.
Yeah.
Looking for different angles.
It's not just, a good habit for a deep dive like this. It feels like an essential skill just for navigating life today, for making sense of everything coming at us.
Couldn't agree more.
Which leads to maybe a final thought to leave you with. In this world where we're flooded with information, but context often feels scarce.
Yeah.
How do you choose?
Choose what?
Which stories you really dive into, and what steps do you take, consciously or not, to understand what's going on beneath the surface, to grasp those deeper implications.